Hey, welcome to 12 Tone. A while back, we made a video analyzing the harmony of Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden. You probably already know that. In fact, there's a good chance you're here because of it. We got a lot of great feedback from it, but there was one comment we kept getting that stood out. The basic idea was that Chris Cornell didn't know music theory, and thus it was somehow misguided or even disrespectful to look at his work in that way. And that's a fairly common attitude extending far past Chris Cornell. There's a belief that if music isn't written from a theoretical perspective, it shouldn't be analyzed from one, that to do so strips it of its soul, and while I obviously disagree, it got me thinking about where that idea comes from and why we don't seem to see it as much with other kinds of art. And this might surprise you, but I actually think it's coming from a really good place. I think it reflects a deep appreciation of some of the most important aspects of modern music as an art form, and trying to understand how that appreciation of music becomes a distrust of theory tells us a lot about how we as theorists are perceived. Music sits in a pretty unique place in the world of art. First of all, it's incredibly accessible. That is, anyone can do it. We may not all be Beethoven, but most people can pick up an instrument, learn a few chords, and go write some songs with their friends. And not just basic stuff either. Some of the most important music of the modern era has come not from studios but from garages. That's a really powerful thing, and I think we take it for granted, but compare music to something like, say, filmmaking. Making a feature-length film, even a really bad one, requires tens of thousands of decisions and could involve hundreds of people. You can't just make a feature film in an afternoon with a couple buddies. It's a huge production with lots of moving parts. So it makes sense to view film through the lens of expertise because you have to be an expert in order to make it. But that's not all. Music is also incredibly pervasive. It's everywhere. It's worked its way into almost every part of our culture, including many of its other art forms. And again, that's great. It means we're able to share our work with the entire world instead of the small subsection of it that happens to be interested. Here, I'd compare it to poetry, or more specifically, poetry outside of song lyrics. Like music, poetry is really accessible. Anyone can put words on a page, and a basic understanding of the forms and practices of poetry is pretty easy to come by. But when we talk about poetry, the first question is often whether someone likes it at all, whereas you'd probably never ask someone, hey, do you like music? You're much more likely to skip straight to what kind of music do you like, because there has to be something, right? Everyone likes music. Poetry, on the other hand, is seen as a more niche art form, so it makes sense to view it through the lens of expertise because most people think you have to be an expert in order to fully appreciate it. That's not to say, by the way, that poetry is a lesser art form or that people who haven't studied it can't enjoy it. It just doesn't have the level of cultural saturation that music has, at least not right now. Please don't hate me, poets. Anyway, we've established that music is both accessible and pervasive. Everyone can do it and everyone likes it, and that makes it almost uniquely positioned as the art form of the people. It's democratized, everyone gets to be involved, and it belongs to everybody. Viewed like that, it makes perfect sense that people would be wary of academics coming down from our ivory towers and declaring that they're doing it wrong, that things they think are good are actually bad for reasons they don't understand, or that they shouldn't make art because they don't know all the rules. Our job then is to prove that that's not what we're doing. Well, first of all, our job is to not do that. There are certainly theorists out there who will loudly and repeatedly insist that they are the gatekeepers of musical quality, that they get to enforce their expertise over other people's artistic experiences, but most of us don't. Most of us take what in linguistic circles is called a descriptivist stance, which means we're not trying to say what's good, we're just trying to say what's happening. How does this one piece of music relate to other pieces of music, and what does it say about the culture it grew out of? What things can it teach us about how to write other songs, and what cool tricks did the composer use in order to make it sound the way it does? Those are the sorts of questions we tend to ask, not whether or not you're allowed to enjoy your favorite song. Fundamentally then, this is a communication problem. People are hearing things that we're not trying to say, so how do we fix it? That's a really complicated question, and I don't have the full solution or anything, but a good first step is probably to just be respectful. Understand that music is subjective and different people may have different musical experiences from you. Recognize that your academic background doesn't invalidate their views, and most importantly, don't tell people they're wrong for liking things you don't like, and never ever insist that something doesn't count as music. These sorts of communications can be hard. I'm certainly guilty of having described things as bad or wrong when what I meant was non-standard, and while a theorist could have recognized that intent, someone who's not used to how we talk probably would have heard that as an attack. So if we want to convince people that we're just here to help, we need to choose our words and our battles carefully. We're walking on sacred ground here, and we have a responsibility to respect that. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you want to help make these videos possible, please consider supporting 12 Tone on Patreon. You can also join our mailing list to find out about new episodes. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and keep on rockin'.